Watch this.
His legacy is well known. Farmer, friend, and family man. Musician, mentor, and model member of the Republican Party. All of which was shared at the state capitol today, where Governor Phil Batt lies in state. Catalytic converter thefts have been making a lot of noise recently, but now legislators are trying to quiet it down. However, a muffler shop was already taking matters into their own hands. If a senator's office is ransacked in the middle of a Capitol riot and that senator says nothing about it, did it actually happen? Well, video evidence says, yes, it did. What will that senator say now? Crime isn't a common topic here on the 208, but sometimes we like to look at trends, like data and numbers, and sometimes those two things, trends and crime, cross paths. For a few years now, catalytic converter thefts have made a lot of noise, pun intended. Here's a look at numbers from the Boise Police Department. This is just from Boise alone, by the way. From just 12 reports of catalytic converter thefts in 2019, we've jumped up to 160 of those reports in 2022. Roughly estimating the crime doubles every year, as you can see the reports there from 2019 to 2022. We all know why. The metals in these things are expensive and they hold a high resale value. But is anyone trying to do anything about it? Who's going to stop this other than police trying to? The answer is yes. Republican Representative Vito Barbieri wants scrap metal businesses to document who is selling them catalytic converters and any of the metals that they find inside. Here's Andrew Barline.
A steady drip of business keeps Boise Muffler around for generations.
Family business since '85.
But it's a new wave of customers that's gotten Sean Page's attention.
So this is a catalytic converter off of an old Toyota pickup.
It cleans exhaust and quiets the car, but they've made a lot of noise recently.
1-2 calls every couple of days.
And that's not normal.
No, from what Boise used to be, a couple of years back, catalytic converter theft wasn't a thing. So it's been just this last couple of years that it came about and has really kind of taken off.
Because the price of the metals inside,
that would be the brick in a catalytic converter,
has taken off too.
That's what they're looking for.
And you don't need to look far to find someone on the losing end.
Right.
Curtis Stark owns Boise Bistro just across the street. And Curtis knows about catalytic converter thefts because he's had his.
Over the course of the couple of years, I've probably spent
stolen
almost $1,000 just
twice
getting the parts replaced on it.
Orange spray paint and welded license plate and phone numbers can warn buyers and recyclers.
So you want something that's just going to make somebody think twice.
Even shields can be installed under the car. It's part of Boise Muffler's solution to thefts.
You're just trying to keep people honest is all you're doing.
It's the new reality of his business, and that's becoming the state legislature's business through the House Business Committee.
They come in with 10 catalytic converters. At least we have the data to know who brought that material to them.
Representative Vito Barbieri sponsors House Bill 142 to amend the Idaho Scrap Dealers Act. It would add catalytic converters and the metals inside to the list of metals scrap metal businesses need to document. A secondhand catalytic converter seller would have to give their ID, license plate, name, and address.
It acts like a little bit of a deterrent.
And it's welcomed by the businesses too. United Metal Recycling tells the 208 in a statement, quote, "We are a proponent of the scrap metal bill, and we feel that by adding catalytic converters to the bill, it will help law enforcement do their job more efficiently and effectively. Because the reality is, it's an underreported crime. Curtis never told police about either of his.
Nothing really ever comes from those situations. It's really it's expensive. It's not something that you put in your budget. So it's just one of those expenses you got to deal with.
Page says it's not good business, but it's business.
You talk about how the valley changes, times change. With growth, you get good and bad, I think is, kind of the nature of the beast.
United Metals Recycling say they like this idea. They already document other materials, and House Bill 142 just adds catalytic converters and the metals inside them to that list. They also say that this would be a valuable tool for police to search through those records, track down someone who is selling stolen metals and catalytic converters. The bill is on the House floor, Brian. It's in general orders, I think's the language. I reached out to Joe today, what that means exactly. He says, from my understanding, that the floor can amend it as a whole. It's kind of an interesting place for a bill to be. I actually hadn't heard that before, so Joe had to explain it to me.
It could look a lot different coming out of the House than it did going into the House, because anybody can they could change it completely and rewrite the whole thing if they wanted to. Hopefully that doesn't happen, because it seems like a pretty simple, straightforward bill that does some good.
Directly addresses a problem
that is growing, as we just showed you here in the Treasure Valley. I did not know about the orange spray paint thing, though.
Yeah.
That was interesting to me.
Yeah, and then welding phone numbers and license plates, too, just trying to track it back to the owner if it is stolen some way or another.
Somewhere or another. All right. Thank you very much, Andrew.
Oh my God, I don't want anyone out there to get in here! More people!
Well, by now you've probably seen plenty of video of what happened outside and inside our nation's Capitol building on January 6th, 2021. Whatever edited version you prefer. Insurrectionists wanting to overturn the 2020 election forced their way into the Capitol and did some damage to the place, to say the least. And what you maybe you haven't seen, though, and didn't know, was what those rioters did to Idaho Senator Jim Risch's office. Newly released court documents and video show some of what happened.
Who has a knife? Scissors. Look for scissors and knife. A letter opener. Open this up. I need some. Right there, scissors.
What are we doing?
We're gonna open this up looking for intel. We got really new stuff. We got emergency prep plans. Open these up. What's in here, guys? Open these up. Go through it. Open these up. Emergency escape hood. It says emergency escape hood.
Okay, so this was all taking place in Senator Jim Risch's office on that day. Yet the senator has made no mention of it to this point. The only reason we know of it was because these videos were used as evidence in a case against one of the rioters. Eventually, the government released them at the request of different news organizations. There is a rioter shown in the video smashing out a window. That you showed that earlier. That's Daniel Rodriguez. He also used a stun gun on a police officer's neck, which almost killed him. Rodriguez has pleaded guilty. Senator Risch's desk, as you can see, was trashed. And another rioter testified one of his accomplices defecated in the office next door to Risch's that day. Yet again, Risch has said nothing about it. Senator Risch was asked about it, though, when this video became public, and he told NBC News, quote, "I don't do interviews on January 6th, but thanks," end quote. Well, we also wanted to ask Senator Risch about it, but we were told he wasn't available today. His office did send us a statement, though, the same statement he sent out on January 6, 2021, which they say still stands. Risch said then, "Today's events at the United States Capitol meant to disrupt the process at the heart of our democracy were unpatriotic and un-American in the extreme. I was proud to join my colleagues and reconvene, yada, yada, yada." But tonight, showing the Capitol, returning to the Capitol tonight, showing that mob rule never prevails, he says. But that mob does seem to make it into your office, didn't they? Yet the senator refuses to talk about it or even acknowledge it. He says he doesn't do interviews on January 6th. But maybe we could talk to him about January 7th? He was Idaho's 29th governor. And when he took office in 1995, he became Idaho's first Republican governor in a generation, beginning a string that is yet to be broken. Phil Batt, the one-time onion and hops farmer from Wilder, was a one-term governor who didn't need more than 4 years to leave a lasting legacy on Idaho and its people. Governor Batt passed away last Saturday, the morning of his 96th birthday. Today, he was honored with a ceremony at the state capitol, a place where the reluctant politician spent 3 decades of his life. A state legislator for 2 years, a state senator for 16, a lieutenant governor for 4. Colleagues, friends, family, those who knew him well and those who just felt like they did, gathered to pay tribute to the man who brought selflessness and jazz to the office of the governor. The ceremony of the circumstance. From the State House steps to the skies above. A former governor lying in state can seem a solemn affair.
I would rather be ashes than dust. Didn't that sound like Phil Batt?
But for those who came to honor the former onion farmer,
I would rather that my spark should burn out in a brilliant blaze than it should be stifled in dry rot.
the former governor, Phil Batt.
The proper function of man is to live, not to exist. I shall not waste my days in trying to prolong them. I shall use my time. God bless Phil.
The weight of the moment could be felt in the emotion of the memories.
Governor Batt's long-standing service as a citizen, legislator, lieutenant governor, and governor, and the many roles he played is marked by many achievements. I wish all future leaders could take a lesson from this man. Take the long view.
When people describe Phil Batt, I never heard them use the term tall, but we all did look up to him. He loved people, whether it was the farm workers, the migrant workers. He absolutely loved people of all color, ethnicity, preference. He personified the golden rule. And his devotion to Idaho and his compassion for people, his humility, his decency, and his civility.
Those tangibles impressed more than just his politics.
My father started working with Governor Batt back in the 50s. He would migrate from Texas to Wilder, and he worked the hops, the hop fields. Very special person. Him and my dad were just like brothers, you know. He worked for probably 30 years for him. I used to be his gardener when I was a teenager in my summer job. He was a very, very friendly, nice boss, you know. Every morning when we'd be unloading stuff or getting ready to go to work, good morning guys, how are you guys doing? You know, he'd always be smiling and he'd be ready to come here.
What are you gonna remember most?
You know, his kindness, you know, he made you feel good. He always made you feel like you were part of the family, and that was special.
A small man, but a big heart. He was an honest, caring, good person. Probably the kindest governor that I knew.
He's what we think Idaho should be. You know, he's the kind of people that you respect. Yeah, and that's why we're here.
How he supported equality and people. Everyone, he looked at them as individuals and saw them as individuals, which speaks for Idaho. That's what I think Idaho is, good people. So that's how why I'll remember him.
Eva Gay Yost will remember him as her boss.
And he said, okay, you're the scheduler.
Where she kept track of his calendar.
For the whole 4 years that he was in office.
But also as a friend who helped him write 2 books.
He wrote those books in longhand on a yellow lined tablet with his tiny little writing. And then I had to decipher it and type it.
What was he like behind closed doors?
He could be serious if it was a serious situation, but he was always so kind. He was just very kind and appreciative of what we in the governor's office, what we did for him. You know, he really was.
Eva's scheduling duties continued through Governor Batt's final days, planning his 96th birthday with the help of his wife, Francie.
And we got a cake, and then she called me that morning and said that he was gone. And I said, well, what should we do about the party? Do you think we can just go ahead and do it? And she said, absolutely, we're going to do it. He'll be there in spirit. So we did, and it was great. It was a nice party. I'm going to miss him terribly. I'm just grateful for the time that I had with him, that I got to know him, and that he was my friend. There won't be another one. There will never be another Phil Batt, ever.
Those 2 books Governor Batt wrote, one a memoir called The Complete Phil Batt, a kaleidoscope, and a compilation of humorous stories called Life as a Geezer. I learned today Governor Batt's favorite restaurant in town was Yanqing, the Chinese restaurant downtown. It's where they spent several of his birthdays. In fact, Governor Batt had a standing reservation there for years. He even had a dedicated table where he would take family and friends to share his favorite food. The owner of the restaurant, Satoshi Narita, telling us today, quote, "We had the privilege to serve our governor for a couple of decades. He was a great man. We will miss him." You better believe several of his family members and friends left the State House today to have lunch in Governor Batt's honor today at Yanqing, but just not sure they could all fit at his table. Sadness wasn't the only emotion shared today for Governor Batt. During the ceremony, it was revealed Governor Little proclaimed March 4th, 2023, the former governor's birthday, by the way, as Phil Batt Old Geezer Tightwad Day. That's what he called it. And it has some great proclamations in it, too. Starting with, whereas Idaho was forever changed 96 years ago when Philip Eugene Batt made his entrance into the world on March 4th, 1927, to whereas years of onion and hop farming made Phil a stern fiscal conservative who famously cut costs for the state of Idaho by forcing a switch to thinner toilet paper. And how about this one? Whereas the fate of Cecil Andrus's Cadillac is still unknown after Phil ditched it in favor of the more economical Ford Taurus, and whereas Phil has been living the life of an old geezer, we love him dearly. I, Brad Little, governor of the state of Idaho, do hereby proclaim March 4th, 2023 to be Phil Batt Old Geezer Tightwad Day. Impressive. Governor Batt will lie in state on the first floor of the Capitol until tomorrow morning. Then his funeral will be held tomorrow morning at 11 at the Cathedral of the Rockies in Boise's North End. That, too, will be open to the public.
Tonight's weather story is about a gigantic storm that is just plowing into California, and we're going to be getting some weather out of that as well. And if you look at this in the latest satellite, you'll see out toward Huntington, they're getting just a few snow showers. But as it comes off the blues, you can see that it is changing to some rain showers. Kind of interesting to watch. I'll tell you why coming up here in just a second. So there could be just a few sprinkles around the valley. We're not seeing a lot, and the clouds are coming in, as you see down here, even toward Twin Falls. But we're not seeing a whole lot of that toward the Boise area. As we come up here wide, I say a huge storm. Well, if you look at it, here's the low off the coastline here. And as it moves in, it's developing a pretty good front right in this area. And if you look down even further here in Southern California, this moisture is just like a hose, a line of rain showers, and it's going to be coming in to California, hitting again with heavy snow up in the mountains. And as it moves through, it's going to be coming up into sections of southern Idaho and moving toward Montana, which will be producing some of the snow in the area. Now, as the snow starts out for tonight, and it looks like it's estimated between about 7 to 8 o'clock, watch for it. It could be rain, but because snow falls at such a pace, it can also bring a draft of cold air with it, so it can maintain itself as snow for a while. That's the thinking of it. But as we get toward tomorrow morning, look at the low temperature, 36 degrees, and by about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, we're going to be at 40. Likely there's a changeover to rain, so this is looking like it's going to be pretty slushy for tomorrow morning. We could be seeing rain with this sort of thing, and then it dries up a bit for the weekend, but still some showers. Warmer temperatures for next week means rain showers.
All right, day 4 of the Iditarod sled dog race up in the Alaska wilderness. We're going to check in to see where Idaho's Jed Stevenson is sitting right now with his 14 dogs pulling his sled, and currently the Sandpoint resident 27th out of 32 spots, which is 2 spots higher than Tuesday when he was in 29th place. So he's moving up, which is great. Slow and steady wins the race, right? Just like the tortoise. Yep. That's what they always say. Well, we're going to continue to keep you posted on the only Idahoan racing in that race. We've got about a week to go. It's usually about 11 days to take to finish. So we're at day 4. So hopefully you can gain some ground over the next 7 days. You know, a little birdie told us Idaho's driver's license are getting a makeover and maybe even a little more Idaho added to it. Surprisingly, not with the addition of a potato. That just happens on our plates, by the way, both on our car and on our tables. But there's a bird that's going to be on this new one. And it's Idaho's state bird, the mountain bluebird. And no, yeah, the birdie, by the way, was the Idaho Transportation Department told us about this. Yeah, we're going to still keep other parts of Idaho in there, you know, like some mountains. We're going to see a glimpse of the State House in there. Even the Syringa is in there, just kind of toward the bottom. That's the first time that's going to make an appearance on the ID. Right there by a copy of your face, so you have to put both of them on there. There's no denying the state bird is the main attraction, though, taking all that attention there front and center. So why did we get hit 4 times with Idaho's hottest features, and why now? ITD says it's for security purposes, to protect things against like counterfeiting. The new design will roll out this April for new cards and card renewals, but if you don't have to get one right away, don't worry. It'll remain good, the one you have now, until you do get a renewal and it expires. All right, let's get to your comments on this Thursday. A lot of comments coming in today, especially about what happened with Senator Risch's office. Let's start with this, though. I'm shocked and pleased that a GOP legislator is introducing a bill that helps solve a real problem, catalytic converter thefts. That's from Jack in Boise. That's a pretty good bill, but again, heading to the floor where they could make amendments to it. Good for Senator Risch. I'm sure a lot of us are tired of hearing about the attack on January 6th. It happened. Let it go, says Donna in Emmett. Okay. Risch is showing extreme cowardice. How can one trust someone who would rather not talk about the truth instead of bringing the whole truth to light, asks Nancy in McCall. This one, my favorite. I just want to turn off the TV every time that Brian Holmes is on the 208. He panders daily to the left. Never kind or a fair word for conservatives. Why pick on Senator Risch today? Who cares if he doesn't want to belabor January 6th like the Democrats? Don't we have bigger fish to fry? I would think that an insurrection that reaches the offices of our senator might be worth talking about. At least maybe him talking about it. Then maybe we can put it behind us. But in not knowing about it until now seems kind of odd, doesn't it? I knew Phil from the Idaho on Tuesday night. That'd be Phil Batt, former governor. Passed away on Saturday. Knew him from the Idaho on Tuesday night jams with Gene Harris. Man, they talked about that today, too. He was a great jazz player, clarinet. It was fun to hear him with the others. Years later, I ran into him. We reminisced a little, even though he didn't even know him. But he loved talking about music, loved playing music, and you'd have to stick around to the end if you were watching him. We'll see you tomorrow.